That being said, we're going to, Scott, start with you, and I'm going to give a few words here. Actually, I have a rather lengthy introductory bio, but I'm going to just pick out some key points. He is the current mayor of Mesa, which I understand is the third largest city in Arizona. It's one of the few cities like Kingman that don't have a property tax, which is interesting. And he was reelected. He started in 2008, reelected in 2012, and he's president of the United States Conference for Mayors.
Who are we talking about?
We're talking about Scott Smith. And if I need to speak up louder, I can do that. Do you need that?
Faster.
Okay. We have, if I go too fast, I get complaints because then people can't understand. I've been told that. He actually came out of the private sector. He is both an accountant, an attorney, CEO, and he did go, he was instrumental, his bio says, in bringing Apple to the Mesa area, and he was also a person who graduated from, I believe, the U of A. Is that right, Scott?
ASU.
ASU. Twice. You didn't go to the U of A?
No, I went to Tucson, so
okay.
I both of them.
Okay. And in any event, we do welcome him, and he is running for governor of the state of Arizona. Why don't you, Don, or John, give him that other microphone. It's right there if it's ready to go. Is that ready to go?
Let's see. Oh, it is. Thank you very much. 2 drink minimum tonight. Okay, Big John? Thank you so much for inviting us up here. I certainly enjoy every time I come up here to Mohave County. I have to admit that I don't drive here very often because since I started flying airplanes about 7-8 years ago, it's a much prettier flight and quicker, although I love the drive. This is one part of Arizona that I think other than people driving up through here to get to Las Vegas, they don't fully appreciate. I'll tell you, when you fly, it's especially fun because you get to go down all the canyons and the valleys and Burro Creek and all those. You get to follow those around, and there's places that you can't see from 93 the others that are just stunningly gorgeous in this part of the country. I'm Scott Smith. I'm currently the mayor of Mesa. I've been the mayor of Mesa for 6 years. I'm a native Arizonan, 4th generation. I got lucky because I have Arizona in my blood. Many of you, probably most of you, are lucky because you chose to be here. Either way, we see Arizona as an incredible place of opportunity. As was said, I grew up in Tucson. My father was in education. He was a school superintendent here in Arizona for 35 years. Still alive, 87 years old. Probably more healthy than I am, and certainly sharper of mind than I am. He's doing great. And he talks to me about some of the many changes that have come to our great state in the years that we've been here. And I saw that also. I grew up in this state, first in Tucson, then up in Mesa. I've had the opportunity to travel all around Arizona. As a matter of fact, there are 91 cities and towns in our state, in all corners. And last year we were at the U.S. Conference, or not the U.S. Conference, but the League of Cities and Towns. And I could count that I had actually been to 88 and spent time in 88 of the 91. Believe it or not, and I don't know why this is the case, I have never stood on a corner in Winslow, Arizona. I've been to the east of Winslow, to the west of Winslow. I've never stood on a corner there, and San Luis. For some reason I've been to Yuma dozens of times and never gone that far south. So I know this state and I love this state. And as mayor of Mesa, I came out of the private sector. I was president of a development home building company called Great Western Homes. We built all over Arizona. And I took this company and built it from literally one that I was instructed and hired as a CPA and someone who had worked with Price Waterhouse, and I had an MBA to literally liquidate this company, shut it down, because the board thought it had many problems, and it did. And they said, Scott, shut this thing down. You're the only one that wasn't involved, and before I knew it, I was president. And I looked at it, and I had recently gone back to law school, and I said, hey, there's money in the bank. I need a job. why don't you give us a chance to do one thing? Just do one project, and we did. That was in 1995. And we had 10 employees, did about 10 homes that year, and I ended up buying that company 5 years later. And I owned it for 3 years and sold it to a national New York Stock Exchange company. By the time I left that business, we were doing over 1,200 homes and almost $200 million in revenue building throughout this state. So I know what it's like to interact with government, and I can tell you, one of the reasons I decided to get involved in politics is I felt the burden of government. I felt a government that limited what I could do. And I think the very basic reason for government to exist is to protect our rights. The very basic reason of government is to not put lids on us and not to put limitations, but to allow us to flourish and to do whatever we can, to loosen the bands and to set the stage and allow individuals and businesses to flourish. And I went into the city of Mesa as mayor, was elected, and I found out that working inside government was much worse than I thought on the outside. And that's because government is good at regulating. They do that really well because they've had a lot of practice. And they believe that, that's why we exist. And so I went in there and I was before a group of bureaucrats like this, and I said, listen, your job is to make us the most business-friendly state or city in this state. And I looked out and I realized that they all thought we already were the most business-friendly. They said, well, Mayor, we're already doing that. I said, well, no, you're not. And I kept trying to figure out how I could change government. And that's when I started looking at things to do. Ways I could communicate with the bureaucracy and really change the culture. And I believe we were able to accomplish that in more ways than one. First of all, we got hit with a massive budget deficit, $60+ million. And so I was able to immediately use the skills I had learned both through school and business to restructure, reform, reorganize the city of Mesa business, which Mesa is the 38th largest city in the country. It's over $1 billion entity. And we not only solved that and balanced the budget, and I balanced budgets every year in the worst economy since the Great Depression, but at the same time we were balancing budgets, we lowered regulation. We made us business friendly, and we also thrived. We didn't just curl over there in the corner and say, listen, we're going to make government efficient. We wanted to make government effective. And in order to do that, we had to be accountable to the people. And that's one thing that government has a hard time doing. They're great at regulating, they're horrible at being accountable. And that's when our freedoms are challenged. When they won't be accountable, they want to use the power, and we change that. And how we did it in business and in the city is I said, listen, let me explain to you what your job is. You're good at regulating, but I want you to facilitate. I want you to facilitate, not regulate. Oh, okay. Facilitate. When I walk in here, you have a rule. First of all, I want you to look at that rule and think if it's necessary, because we need rules. We need rules to protect our freedoms. We need rules to make us safe. But if those rules are unreasonable, we need to change them. We worked hard to change those. And if those rules are reasonable, your job is to help Bob and Joe and Fred, when they walk in here, to comply with those. Not to just tell them no. I was tired of people telling me no. You start with yes. And you go to the city of Mesa now and you see facilitate, don't regulate. Facilitate, don't regulate. When we sat down with Apple Computers and we were across the table with them and negotiating how they would make a $2 billion investment in Arizona, I can tell you it wasn't about money, because the city of Mesa didn't give any money to Apple to come. What we did though is we said what we will do is we'll provide you a government that is responsive, a government that knows how to help you succeed. We're going to treat you like we treated the scout who needed to do an Eagle project. And we bent over backwards to help him accomplish that. When Apple made their investment, we were having a post-mortem. A senior executive came up to me and gave the mayor one of the greatest compliments he ever can. He said, Mayor, I've worked with this company for almost 15 years, and I've dealt with governments around the world. At every level, I have never worked with a government that was as responsive and professional as the city of Mesa. And they kept saying that they were bound to facilitate, not regulate. We can make these kind of changes in state government. We can have the kind of successes where we create an efficient government, but a government that's also effective and accountable. A government that fulfills its basic needs by helping you fulfill your basic needs. And that is not to give you things, it's to help you be free and to help you have the freedom to reach your highest goals, your highest beliefs, your highest aspirations. That comes from an educational system which is excellent, which is world-class, so your children and your grandchildren can succeed in Arizona too. You know, I ran for governor because I found something really interesting about this generation. How many of you believe that you are better off now than your parents were at this stage in their life? How many believe you're doing better than you are? Really? Just that many? This is an interesting group because most of us would say that we live a better lifestyle. We lived a better lifestyle. We didn't live through the Great Depression and things like my grandparents, my parents did, and we live it better. How many of you honestly believe your grandkids, right now, the way the world is now, are in line to have a better life than you are?
No way.
Okay, see, I see a lot of heads. Isn't that sad? You realize this is the first generation in American history that has not truly believed that their children, their posterity will be better off and have more opportunities than they do? That's sad. That is really sad. We have an educational system that ranks below average. We need to change that. We have a regulatory system that is stifling improvement and innovation. We have to change that. We have a government that is prone to govern us rather than governed by us. We have to change that. I've learned how to do it. There's one thing that separates me from every other candidate for governor. They're all good people. You have one over here. Doug Ducey's a good person, and all the others are good people. They have experience, but there's only one that has been a CEO in the private sector and been successful, and also has been a CEO in the public sector that's run an entity, that's run a government. And I can tell you there's a big difference. And I can tell you there's experience, and the mayor over here is shaking his head. It's different being a mayor, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You learn things you could never learn otherwise, and I'll tell you, that experience matters. I've been able to sort of sharpen my teeth on a city government that is a big, big city, but it also has many of the same issues that our state does. I can talk about economic development like bringing an apple and can show you that it's just not an idea, it's not a promise. I've done it. I pulled the team together to make things happen. I would love to take Arizona to its greatest point. I think one of the great challenges we have is if we've accepted average in many ways. We should never accept average. I want to make Arizona great. I've proven, coming together with a team, we can do it, and I'd love to have that opportunity to build a better Arizona for you, your children, and your grandchildren. Thank you very much.